Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Saad Khalil, an events coordinator at Legal Chic, and with me is Sam Colman, who is a trainee solicitor at Norton Rose Fulbright. Sam is currently in his third seat in the pro bono team at the London office, and in this video, we'll be learning more about Sam's experience overall as a trainee at the firm and the types of different type of seats he has covered so far. And then at the end, we'll also cover some advice that he has for students and aspiring solicitors. So first of all, Sam, thank you so much for joining today. How are you doing?
Thanks, Saad. It's great to be here today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Fantastic. So first of all, Sam, could you tell me more about your career journey and the seats that you've covered so far in your training contract?
Sure, yeah. So I come from a non-law background. I did English and French at university. And then after that, did a master's and thought, you know what, I think a training contract would be the perfect kind of next step. So I did a kind of international relations master's looking at projects and infrastructure. And Norton Rose is very well versed in huge infrastructure projects spread across the globe. And so I thought it would be a perfect place to be. My first seat was in our corporate team looking at energy infrastructure. Luckily, I was able to do a lot of renewable energy work there. And in my second seat, I went on a secondment to the Paris office. So I was in the shipping team there, doing some banking transactions. And as you said, now I'm in the pro bono team, which is actually a new secondment, an internal secondment that the firm is offering.
That's fantastic. And if I may ask, what has your overall experience been like? How is life looking like for you now that you're a trainee at Norton Rose?
Yeah, so I mean, genuinely really enjoying it. I think we've got a great group of people. The trainees get on really well. And this is something I didn't anticipate, but I've been playing sport with them outside of work, and I think there's that real collegiate atmosphere which I really enjoy at NRF. In terms of what my training contract experience has been, it's probably very different to other people's, and that's one of the beautiful things about the training contract here, that everyone has very diverse training contract experiences, and they might have a kind of specialism in mind that they want to really pursue, and so we all have quite different profiles, and I think that's what makes it quite interesting talking to different trainees and sharing our experiences.
That sounds really wonderful. Everybody's getting a different experience overall from the process. And then you mentioned that you sort of did a vacation scheme as well
Yeah.
for Norton Rose. If I could touch on that, in your opinion, how important is it that any aspiring solicitor undertakes a vacation scheme at their target law firm, like you did for Norton Rose Fulbright?
Yeah, so I think my answer might be slightly biased because of my experience as a non-law student, but for me it was essential. I really not only needed to do a vacation scheme personally, just because I wanted to understand what my role would be as a trainee solicitor. You have these kind of maybe slightly highfalutin ideas of what the law might look like, but I think when you talk to people at the firm as you would on a vacation scheme, and you really get to grips with what actually does a trainee do. I thought it was invaluable. I don't think it's essential, and I think for Norton Rose, we do get direct applicants, but I think they have to have done some legal work experience elsewhere. But for me, yeah, I feel like there's no better way to really understand the firm than spending, a week, 2 weeks talking to everyone from partner down to trainee at the firm.
Fantastic. So would you say that this has given you a real insight into the work that you currently do as a trainee, or is it a bit different? Is it a bit easier on a vacation scheme and then it ramps up as a trainee?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing with the vacation schemes is you really get to do as much as you're willing to take on. And I need to caveat it that I did my vacation scheme during COVID, so it was very different.
Oh,
Yeah, but the firm did a great job of trying to give a bit of an experience. But having had vacation schemers who've sat with me or I've been looking after, you can really give as much as you feel that you can. So I mean, I was working on a due diligence process, which was quite intense, and there was a vacation schemer right next to me, doing exactly the same kind of work. And obviously, I would review it and things, and then an associate would review my work. But you can really, if you want to put your hand up and take some work, you really can.
that's fantastic. It sounds like a really a valuable experience overall. And then you also mentioned that you did your second seat in the banking team in Paris. So what
Yeah.
was your experience like overall working in a different country now.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I said that I did my undergrad. It was in languages. So I studied French at university for undergrad, and I really wanted to see if I could incorporate a bit of that into the training contract. And I mentioned it to the training development team, and they said, there's this amazing opportunity in Paris, and I thought, that's a perfect opportunity. I'd actually, before starting at the firm, I knew that the Paris office specifically did a lot of work in Francophone Africa, and that was something that interested me. And it's something that I maybe wouldn't have got just staying in the London office. So it was great, going over to Paris, seeing obviously firms like NRF where they have, many offices. You don't really know how the offices interact when you're looking at it from the outside. But it was really great being able to, not only practice my French, but interact with the London office kind of from the other side. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I would say if you get the opportunity, it's really invaluable. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's really exciting to hear how you were on the other side of the team that reaches out,
Yeah,
and you got to experience the collaboration overall, isn't it? And
exactly.
then in terms of the support, you mentioned that you practice a bit of French as well. So what was the support offered to you while you spent your time in Paris from the firm?
Yeah, so I think obviously moving to a different country, even if it's just across the pond, it's still quite daunting. But the firm handled all of the, travel, any kind of tax implications. With the HR stuff was all handled, and I thought that was great. The accommodation was sorted. So there were those I was just left to really think about the law and think about my contribution to the team, which was really great. And then there are French lessons, or if you're going on a secondment to a place that has a different language as the kind of principal language. There are a certain amount of language hours that you're able to take. I didn't actually take them because of doing French at university, but that is obviously an offer if needed. But the cool thing as well, I think that I was wondering whether going on an international secondment, I'd be kind of away for 6 months, and it would come back and
Just
people would,
relaxing.
yeah. But I think, yeah, exactly. But I think that you're in constant contact with the London team. And at a firm like NRF, in the EMEA region where London is really like the hub, you're always talking with London. And I thought it was great. I made so many relations with people in London that when I came back from Paris, it was kind of, hey, I'm back, and it was a really nice experience. Yeah.
It didn't feel like you left at all, so to speak,
Exactly,
because you're in
exactly. Yeah.
touch. No, that's
Exactly.
fantastic. That's really cool to hear. And then about your current seat, could you tell me a bit more about the pro bono team that you're working in? And then could you also talk about the appeal of doing this first of a kind seat within pro bono?
Yeah, so I think I knew going into Norton Rose that I wanted to do pro bono. I thought, the idea of a lawyer being able to use the kind of skills that hopefully we're developing. I'm not definitely the finished article, but hopefully, developing these skills, I really wanted to put them to good use. And so I did pro bono work, within the first year of the training contract. But when this internal secondment opportunity came up, I thought it'd be a really great opportunity to understand the sector and every firm, not just NRF, every firm is doing work in the pro bono space, and it's been really great, interfacing with NGOs, other firms, and also just people across the entire firm, right through to partner to trainee. I'm interfacing with them day to day, and we're doing pro bono work. So to go in a bit more detail, I would say that there's probably three buckets that the work it revolves around. The first is the kind of project management style, looking at the opportunities in the EMEA region and really trying to find projects for our lawyers in Milan, in Paris, in Athens, and of course in London. But I've also been able to have the opportunity to do my own pro bono work, being supervised obviously by someone who knows what they're doing. And that's been great. I mean, so I've so far only done two transactional seats, but in this seat I've been doing some disputes work, looking at housing disputes, and so being able to draft kind of defense and counterclaims, and so it's been a really great varied opportunity. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's sort of like a way to uh, understand a lot of different moving parts within the firm, get to know a lot of different people. Is a fantastic opportunity to help and connect with a lot of different teams, isn't it? And
Exactly.
that sounds a lot of fun, honestly.
Yeah.
And then with regards to your overall training contract so far, I'm sure you have had some highs and lows, some challenges. So could you talk about like some of them, some of the highs of the training contract, and then also some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, I was kind of reflecting on this in advance of our chat, and one of the probably the kind of lowest points actually led to like weirdly one of the highest points. I know that sounds a bit perverse, but with in my first seat, we did a lot of public work, and it is very intense, because of the nature of publicly listed companies, and if you're in the process of listing, everyone kind of knows what's going on, and it's quite stressful, and there are these timelines that you really have to stick to, which isn't quite the same in private M&A. And that was definitely challenging, and there were the kind of cliche late nights, early mornings, but one of the best things that I've done in my training contract so far actually came from that slightly tense period. It was a process of verification of a prospectus, so basically checking through everything in a prospectus for a company that wishes to list that is basically true. And because I'd been kind of hunched over this quite sizable document and gone through and checked everything, the seniors in the team said, would you be able to lead the meeting with the other side to discuss this? And I was, really, really blown away by that, because, normally, the trainee has a different role within the team, but it was
Right.
just nice that they kind of trusted that, you've done the work and you might have more knowledge on this very small aspect of the deal than the rest of the team. So we'll give you that opportunity to talk. And it goes back again to the vacation schema point that, during the training contract, if you do want to put your hand up for it, the colleagues at NRF are more than welcome to kind of give you as much as you can take. So yeah, I know it's a bit of a kind of roundabout way of discussing a bad aspect, but
No, no, no.
yeah, I really
I
enjoyed
completely, I really like the idea that the tough situation that you're in, where you're overwhelmed with so much work, but
it.
it leads to you being the subject matter expert and
Yeah,
ultimately getting that experience and then leading the conversation, the
mm,
meeting.
yeah,
That sounds like fun. That sounds like actual responsibility. Not that the other work isn't, but
yeah,
more of the stuff that you actually see on TV shows sometimes, right?
yeah,
That
yeah,
sounds like a lot of fun. And then to round this conversation off, Sam, you're almost you're beyond the halfway point now. You're almost done with your training contract, but there's a lot of different students that are watching this, aspiring solicitors that want to break into the legal industry. So, from your end, what will be your top tips or any pieces of advice for these aspiring solicitors to apply for a training contract at NRF?
yeah, yeah. So I think what really helped me, I mean, the the whole sphere of law felt, I don't come from a legal background, that it's not, I don't have family members who've, gone into law or anything. So it was very much like I'd seen a few episodes of Suits and that was probably about it. And so I think I'd really recommend, if you're in that situation, is just reaching out to people, reaching out to trainees at the firm. I was really overwhelmed by the fact that, right through from, senior associates down to trainees, people were, and even some partners were willing to offer up their time when I, reached out on LinkedIn or whatever, or emailed. That's the best way to really get a sense of what NRF is like. And I think I get that it's really challenging when there are a lot of firms and you're kind of trying to distinguish, how do these firms actually work? But I just found having those conversations, grabbing a coffee, having a bit of an email or LinkedIn exchange was really great for me. Um, and then also just having a really open mind. I think people might have a kind of preconceived notion of what type of law they want to do, but use the either the vacation scheme, or if you're lucky enough to get a kind of training contract as a way to really open your eyes to all that a firm like NRF actually does. And many of the people who I applied with, and they said, oh, I really want to do this type of law, they've come in and they've done something completely different and they're just taken by it. And I think that my advice would be to not kind of pigeonhole yourself too much in applications. Obviously, it's great to have interests, and like I think I said at the start of this conversation, I was really interested in these kind of big, multi-jurisdictional projects, renewable projects, and I'm still really interested in that. But there have been so many other things that I've, really enjoyed doing that I wouldn't have known at that application stage. So keeping that open mind and
Right.
talking to people would be the things I'd say.
That is great advice because contrary to what popular belief is, it seems like a really scary idea to reach out to someone you don't know
Mm,
and ask for help because you don't know what their response will be. But in the legal industry, because so many people are from the same situation, they've gone through the same route, no exposure, no, they don't know anybody from the legal industry. They're really willing to help, aren't they? So
exactly.
that's fantastic advice. Yeah, and now the last question I have for this session, this Q&A session would be, um, there's a lot of different skills that you expect to use as a trainee, right? But on the flip side of that, are there any skills that you never expected to use, but are doing so now as a trainee?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I would say two skills kind of come to mind. The first one is maybe more unique to the kind of undergrad. So I didn't know that I'd be doing French law and things like that and
Yeah.
using the language skills. So that's been amazing. But another skill that I didn't anticipate using is actually drawing on, jobs I had when I was a student working at clubs, restaurants, and bars and things like that. Just basic, it almost applies to any work, just that kind of endurance and ability to work with people when times are quite stressful. I didn't anticipate that that would translate so well into a kind of commercial law context. But I think, and a message to, people who might have that experience, I found it really invaluable to kind of keep a clear head, keep a calm, perspective when things can get quite stressful. And those kind of jobs, working in a bar or whatever, that you do, I mean, you do really draw on that in a kind of subconscious way. You are drawing on that. So I didn't expect that to be as useful as it had been actually.
No, that's exactly it, right? Because I can imagine there can be some late nights where you have to like work on a deal and get it through the line. You hear these stories all the time, and
Yeah.
that's where all these resilience, endurance skills come in and help you out. But no, that is fantastic, and I'm sure many of our listeners and people who are watching this video, they have those skills already. It's just a
Mm.
matter of using them, conveying them. But that is fantastic, Sam. So, with that, Sam, I want to thank you again for so much. Thank you so much for your time and for all our viewers that are watching this video right now. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, Sam, what will be the best place to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely feel free to have a chat with me on LinkedIn. And also, yeah, I would really recommend the Early Careers podcast, which our firm has just put out, as a really great way to get in touch with, other trainees and people at the firm who are willing to, engage in at that early career stage. But also, I just want to say something that, yeah, I coming from a kind of background of not really knowing too much about the law, places like Legal Cheek were like essential. Literally, I spent so much time poring over Legal Cheek, so I just want to also, do a quick plug for Legal Cheek as well.
A quick plug-in as well. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, anybody who wants to get to know more about Norton Rose Fulbright, they can have a look on our firm's most list page. But with that, we're going to close off this session, this Q&A session. But again, Sam, thank you so much for that. And um, thank you again.
Pleasure. Thank you.